Hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well out there while we're isolating still. Hopefully this will all be over soon and you're safe and well wherever you are. I'm going to give you a kind of a top 10, an Audiophilia top 10 today. People like these top 10s. This is my personal favorite, Shaded Dogs reissues, classical orchestral. Now there's lots of debate out there about the difference between the originals and the reissues, pros and cons, and I've heard all the arguments and had several of them myself. I like them both. I have some originals and they sound wonderful, and sometimes they sound better than the reissues, and sometimes I find the reissues for me sound better than the originals, especially if I've got kind of an old pressing, lots of sound, lots of noise on it. The one opening you heard, of course, is the most famous Shaded Dog, and that's LSC 1806, recorded in 1955 with 2 stereo microphones and 2 wind helpers. It's incredible the sound they get from Chicago Symphony Hall. And this is Richard Strauss's also Orchestra with Fritz Reiner and the Chicago Symphony. This is the recording that started it all off in the stereo era. Not only was it an incredible recording, very simple setup that sounds incredible, but it showed the versatility and the brilliance of the Chicago Symphony under Fritz Reiner. There he is on the front in all his glory, Mr. Happy, a very, by all accounts, a quite unpleasant chap, no sense of humor, would fire musicians on a whim, but many musicians would consider him flawless. He knew the score better than just about everybody. So this would be my first one. It's not really in any particular order. I think we're going to go by numbers here, but this would be my first. Now, this is a Classic Records reissue. Michael Hobson formed Classic Records a long time ago now, and most of them are hard to find, definitely much more expensive. So if you can find them, that's great, but luckily, Chad Sam at Acoustic Sounds formed Analogue Productions, and they're reissuing quite a few of these amazing Shaded Dogs. And by all accounts, they're even better than these Classic Records reissues, which are pretty special. So any way you can get them, originals would be great. But for reissues, if you can get the Classic Records, if it's around, if not, you can still get it, I think, on Analogue Productions, I beg your pardon. But again, they go fast and then they get very expensive. Get them while you can. So this one is LSC 1806. And that's obviously the recording in the background playing. And now LSC 2150, another brilliant recording, again with Reiner and the Chicago Symphony, who was signed to RCA at the time. Prokofiev, Lieutenant Kijé, and Stravinsky's Song of the Nightingale. Everybody comes for the Prokofiev because it's a very famous piece. But the Stravinsky is also equally wonderful, very difficult to play. This is an incredible performance. It's never been bettered. The music was taken from Stravinsky's opera, The Nightingale, and has a large flute solo in it, which is one of the reasons I love it. But it really is a wonderful piece. And you're never going to hear playing like this. I've heard the 4 or 5 recordings that are out there, and this one beats them all. Again, Reiner and the Chicago Symphony. For those audiophiles who love to hear inside the inner depths of the recording and bass, listen to the opening vamp of the French horns and the bass drum playing quietly in Chicago Symphony Hall about 1.5 minutes into the opening track. Pretty incredible. Hear the 2nd and 3rd and 4th horn individually, and the bass drum, and it all sounds so beautiful. That's LSC 2150. I guarantee this is not rigged. This is not fake news, as your buddy likes to say. Fritz Reiner again, Chicago Symphony. He was so good, they even named a record after him, the Reiner sound. This has Rhapsody Espagnole by Ravel. Absolutely gorgeous performance and very sensual and sexy. And when I think sensual and sexy, I don't think Fritz Reiner, but that man had it all, I'll tell you. sometimes put so much fear in the players that they created a brilliant performance out of sheer terror. But this is pretty beautiful and very relaxed and sensuous. And then, of course, the other side is a relatively unknown piece by Rachmaninoff, orchestral piece, called The Isle of the Dead. Very brooding, in 5/8 time, slow tempo, but it just builds and builds and builds. Highly worth getting this record. LSC 2183. And I've heard all of these LPs in their originals, on Redbook CD, on the JVC releases on CD, SACD. Nothing beats these reissues, except if you get a mint original. Then I can imagine it would be amazing. But I don't think I've ever seen a mint original Camden pressing of the Reiner sound. LSC 2183. Yep, you knew it. Once again, Fritz Reiner's Chicago Symphony. Mussorgsky Ravel's arrangement of Pictures of an Exhibition, LSC 2201. Lots of orchestras have recorded the second painting, I think it is. Maybe it's the first painting. Nomus, kind of a very loud, lots of bass drum, lots of cymbals, very tight sound, and this is a wonderful performance and a wonderful recording. Natural trumpet at the beginning, just in a beautiful acoustic. Highly recommended. Yep, he's there again. Oh, Fritz Reiner, Chicago Symphony. Debussy Iberia with two wonderful, originally for piano by Ravel, Alvarado del Gracioso and Vols Noble et Sentimental. Both outstanding pieces, but the masterpiece on here is the Debussy Iberia. Very difficult to play, very difficult to interpret, very difficult for the orchestra to put it together. So you got to be really on your toes. Reiner and Chicago Symphony are on their toes. LSC 2222. Is there a more magical picture in LPs in classical music than that living stereo? Pretty amazing. This is a fun one, and no more Reiner for a while. This is Witch's Brew, the one with the very famous kind of sexy witch on the cover. Everyone likes this recording with lots of different instruments. Of course, she's holding the flute. And there we go, living stereo LSC 2225. This is with the New Symphony Orchestra of London, which is a nom de plume for the London Symphony. They were signed to EMI or Decca or both. And so to get them on RCA, they had to change the name. And this is with Alexander Gibson, Sir Alexander Gibson, or known to the musicians as Sandy Gibson. A very fine, kind of a journeyman conductor from Scotland, but did some good recordings. And this is certainly one of them. Has Tam O'Shanter Overture by Malcolm Arnold. If you like Malcolm Arnold's music, he's an incredible orchestrator. And that's a fun piece. I've played it a couple of times. Not too difficult, but it sounds very impressive. And then your basic witchy-like music. Again, it's got the Nomus from Pictures. It's very fine, not as good as the Chicago Symphony. The Mussorgsky Night on Bear Mountain, but arranged by Rimsky-Korsakov. Dance Macabre by Sanson. Humperdinck, Witch's Ride from Hansel and Gretel. And a very challenging piece and very good, originally piano again, Mephisto Waltz by Liszt. LSC 2322 with Jean Martinov, very good French composer, conductor, conducting the London Symphony Orchestra. The Age of Gold Ballet by Shostakovich and his Symphony No. 1. He wrote his Symphony No. 1 when he was 17 years old as a graduation piece from the St. Petersburg Conservatory, if you can believe that. It's a masterpiece. I mean, how a boy can have his musical style developed at that age, it's so beautifully fine-tuned is amazing. And it's a great symphony. And this recording has a lot of the Kingsway Hall rumble. That's the tube going underneath Kingsway Hall. And it's really unnerving. It's so clear, especially in the first movement of the symphony. It's worth it just for that, for audiophiles. But the performance is fantastic and the piece is great. Highly recommended. LSC 2322. Another famous Royal Opera House Orchestra performance. This is again with Sandy Gibson. This is an interesting one. My flute teacher at Trinity, Harold Clark, Professor Clark, was principal flute of the Royal Opera House at this time. And, I used to go in front of my lessons and talk about technique and sound and timbre and breath control, double tonguing, triple tonguing, and all the nonsense. And I could have been talking to him about Kingsway Hall and what it was like to record there. But another time. Amazing performance by the Royal Opera House Orchestra, very powerful. Bizet Carmen, you all know the music, and this is this orchestral suite. And Gounod Faust, very elegant, very beautiful music by Gounod. And this is LSC 2449. Interesting cover. There you go. 2 more to go. The Power of the Orchestra, very famous. This is Living Stereo. This is VCS 2659. This is a Analogue Productions reissue. I got this. It was $35 US on sale at the Rocky Mountain Audio Fest last year. Worth every penny. A famous recording. Sounds wonderful. Not on Bear Mountain with an odd arrangement by René Leibowitz, the conductor. It's really weird. I can't even listen to it. But the pictures is very famous. Fantastic performance, great recording. Not as good as the Chicago Symphony, but almost. Recording, almost. But it's worth getting. It's a fantastic record. And finally, so probably one of the most famous classical records ever made. It's a double set. This is the Royal Ballet Gala performances with music by Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake, Nutcracker, Sleeping Beauty. Then music, Les Sylphides, Giselle, Coppelia, Boutique Fantastique, and Carnaval, which is music by Schumann and beautifully arranged for orchestra. Again, my flute teacher, Harold Clark, is doing all the wonderful flute solos on this recording, and there are many. The whole orchestra, the Royal Opera House, sounds fantastic. But an original of this, in good condition, Camden pressing, is $1,500 US. So that's out. So, and I know that this is a classic records reissue, but I know that Analogue Productions has a 45 reissue out, which is going fast. If you get a chance to get that, I think you'll really be happy. The sound on this recording is phenomenal. Another Kingsway performance. Ernest Ansermet, a very good conductor. So that's it. That's our top 10, or my top favorite that I have right now of my classic records reissues, The Shaded Dogs. Some Analogue Productions in there. We'll do some more at another time. At this time, I hope this time finds you healthy, happy, and safe. This will all be over soon. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe.